The Dividend Aristocrat ETF is the ProShares S&P 500 Dividend Aristocrats ETF, ticker symbol NOBL, pronounced NOBL, because, you know, the aristocrats are noble. Yeah. This ETF has all the current aristocrats and was created in 2013. If you invest in it, you certainly mitigate part of the issues we talked about this far, since even if one or two companies cut their dividend, the other 60 in the ETF will keep going. However, the issue here is that this might lead to constant underperformance because of the churning of companies. Since the goal of the ETF is to give you appreciating dividends from companies that raised them for decades, I will compare it with two other famous dividend ETFs created for that purpose. VIG, the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation Index Fund, and DGRO, the iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF. Let's start with the yield. NOBL has a yield of 2.08% currently. The Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF's yield is 1.82%, and DGRO is currently yielding 2.35%. So the winner here clearly is DGRO. Now, let's check the total returns of the funds and compare them to each other. As you can see, the Aristocrat ETF is the clear loser here, trailing the other two with 20%. It's hard to say which one is the winner because the difference between DGRO and VIG is only 2%, which for a cumulative performance for 10 years is nothing, so I will consider them equal here. Next, let's see the most important part of the ETFs that price themselves on dividend growth, the dividend growth rate. NOBL's dividend growth rate is 20.5% for the past 10 years, 7 for the past 5 for the past 3, and 16 for the past 12 months. For VIG, it is 8.5 for the past 10 and 5, 11 for the past 3, and 6.6 for the past 12 months. For DGRO, it is just about to reach its 10-year anniversary, so it has no data, but for the past 5, it's almost 10, then 8 for the past 3, and 10 again for the past 12 months. So, looking at those results, in my opinion, it is pretty hard to judge the winner. Each ETF has outperformed the other for different periods. I would say based on the huge 20% 10-year growth rate for NOBL and the big 16% increase for the past 12 months, that it is the winner. But you can see a decline in the 5 and 3 year range, where it is losing to both the others. And actually, for the past 12-month increase, I have my reservations because if you look at the history, it actually cut its dividend in 2022 and then increased it back again the next year. If this was a one-time occurrence, it would be okay. But for the short history of the ETF, it has actually done it 3 times, which is not supposed to happen for an ETF having only the supposed cream of the crop of dividend growers, right? Why is that? Well, because at the same periods, the ETF has had one of the big dividend aristocrats at the top, and when it slashed its dividend, this dragged down the whole ETF result with it. If we compare that with VIG, it has also had minor cuts right in the financial crisis in 2009 and also in 2013, but hasn't had one for the past 10 years. And this is unlike the DGRO, which for the past 9 years of history hasn't cut its dividend at all. Now, I'm not quick to declare DGRO the winner here because it wasn't around in the financial crisis in 2008 when VIG suffered a cut, but I would prefer one of the two for sure instead of the NOBL one. Which is weird because the goal of the NOBL ETF is to have companies that don't cut its dividend, right? But as we can see, this is not the case. And last, but also very important, let's look at the compositions of the funds, something which I always like to look at because it gives me great idea what the results of the futures are and what to expect. For the NOBL ETF, you can see that half of it is in industrials and consumer staples, which is to be expected having in mind that not a lot of tech companies were around, let alone raising dividends 25 years ago. I like these sectors, the industrial because of the onshoring trend in the USA, and the consumer defensive because it gives stability to the portfolio. So I'm okay with that. However, I don't like the fact that the filter of 25-year dividend growth doesn't allow the ETF to include the biggest and best companies of today. We can see that by looking at the top 10 ones. Now, compare that to VIG's top 10 holdings, which are all powerhouses. Microsoft, Apple, Broadcom, Chase, Exxon, United Health, Visa, MasterCard, Home Depot, Procter & Gamble. I feel much more comfortable in these names than in the previous ones. The sectors for VIG are a standard picture for all the big ETFs right now, from what I have seen, with tech, financials, and healthcare as the top 3. And as I said, is typical for the current situation with big dividend ETFs. The same are the top 3 sectors for DGRO as well. The top 10 holdings for it are Exxon, Chevron, Apple, Microsoft, Chase, Johnson & Johnson, AbbVie, Broadcom, Procter & Gamble, and Merck. So when it comes to the stocks and sectors comparison, I'm not sure I can definitively choose between VIG and DGRO, but I would definitely not choose NOBL. Also, since I mentioned DGRO, make sure you check this video I did on the ETF. It is a deep dive analysis that will show you everything you need to know if you decide to invest in this dividend growth fund. I will see you there.